Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Andrew O'Malley. I'm a training and development specialist, which basically means I teach people how to learn. So today we're gonna be covering a topic I see a lot of people getting kind of confused over. We're gonna talk about learning theories, what they are, and how to use them to make sure your learners are able to learn new content confidently and effectively. So you might be wondering right off the bat, are learning theories even worthwhile? What are they? Should I be bothered? It sounds like a lot of work.
Okay, so when you get down to it, a theory is an explanation of how something works. So a learning theory is an explanation of how people learn. Now, there's no one universal learning theory that works for all learners at all times, but we do have some really good smaller learning theories that explain how people learn in different situations and under different contexts. So when you're going to teach something, you can borrow one of these learning theories so you can have an academic background and methodology to teaching people so they learn in the most effective way possible.
Think of the learning theory like a blueprint. You're going to refer to it when you're building a lesson, a workshop, a classroom teaching, even an online course. These all benefit from learning theories. And I know what you might be thinking. That sounds kind of overly complicated and maybe a waste of time. Do learning theories actually work? The short answer is yes, and let me explain why. Think of a learning theory somewhat like a bucket. So we have these different buckets, these different theories. And as new research comes out, it fills up the bucket with these ideas, with data. It allows academics in the field to sift through all the different knowledge we've gained and come up with specific tools and specific practices that improve learning using that theory. So if I'm gonna develop a training, I'm gonna pick up the relevant bucket and I'm gonna take the tools in the bucket. And that's gonna guide how I do test questions, how I do different activities, how I structure the whole lesson so people are able to learn as effectively and quickly as possible. So how do we do this? How do we use a learning theory? One of the biggest mistakes I see when people are developing trainings is they don't use any theory. They just put together a bunch of information, they give it to learners and say, figure it out. And while this may work in some settings as a discovery learning tool, it's not appropriate for all learning context. Learners benefit from using different strategies of learning, and specific learning theories are appropriate for different subjects. So you wouldn't teach biology the same way you would teach sales. Those are two very different disciplines. So let's go over some of the most popular learning theories and some of the subjects they work the best in. First up is behaviorism, and you can think of this as a reward system. In behaviorism, you reward specific actions. So if a learner does an action you want them to do, you give them a point, you give them a sticker, you give them a reward. But if they do an action you don't want them to do, then maybe you give them a punishment or a negative reinforcement. This theory uses a rewards and or punishment system in order to dictate learner behavior, but there are a few things to remember when you're using behaviorism. First off, it only focuses on observable behaviors. So we're not concerned about thinking or mental processes or anything you can't see. It's only specific actions that are observable. And another thing to keep in mind is it only works with very simple action. For example, in most organizations, making a sale is an action that would be way too complicated to use behaviorism for. There's many steps from outreaching to a client to following up to negotiating. These are different steps along the sequence. Maybe you want to reward them individually, but in behaviorism, you're rewarding very specific, very simple steps. So if someone makes a phone call, reward. If someone makes a phone call, another reward. Any small, very granular actions, those are great things to reward in the scope of behaviorism. Next up is cognitivism. This is my favorite one, although it can be a little too traditional. Now, while behaviorism was all about observable action, cognitivism is where there's a bit of a shift. So now we're focused more on mental processes. This theory is great when you're teaching a subject that you need learners to retain the information, to learn things quickly, and maybe to follow steps or procedures. This theory focuses on processes that help streamline knowledge acquisition and maximize retention. If you want your learners to know and retain specific information, this theory is for you. Next up, constructivism, learning by doing. Now, I find this is a bit of an underrated learning theory, and I love using constructivism when I'm teaching things like sales or communication skills, because these are very complex skills. And in constructivism, you have learners build their own knowledge, their own experiences with the these topics. So just like how everyone has their sales styles, when you use constructivism as the base of your learning theory, you're encouraging your learners to build their own knowledge, understanding, and expertise. So this works really well as it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Training from a constructivist perspective could look like a lot of role play scenarios, group discussions, and other activities that help your learner use what you've been teaching as quickly as possible. And it also leverages the experience that they're bringing to the table. And connectivism, as the internet and different modalities are becoming available, this one is becoming more and more popular. Why? Because we don't need to teach in just one format, in one way, the same way every single time. Connectivism helps connect different people to other people as well as other resources so they can access a variety and a blend of knowledge and apply that to their learning. You could teach your learners through interactions on social media, videos, podcasts, group discussions, all sorts of different touch points that again give your learner somewhat of a mosaic to pull from as they're learning a specific topic. And this theory is becoming more realistic to what your learner is going to experience out in the real world, because if you want to learn something outside of school, outside of work, you're probably going to visit a number of different resources in order to build your own knowledge base. This encourages the learners to start building and developing this skill as early as possible. Okay, and my challenge to you for this video, pick one of the 4 learning theories and apply it to your next training. Let me know down in the comments which one you picked and why. So we've covered what a learning theory is and what some of the most popular learning theories are right now, but you might be wondering, which one's the best? Which one's the most useful? At present, there is no universal learning theory. There is no one size fits all. This theory works for every learner in every subject. Basically, when you're selecting a learning theory, pick the one that works best for your subject, best for your learners, and best for your teaching style. You might need to play around with different theories and see which ones you gravitate to the most and the ones that help your learners the most. Here's my recommendation. If you want to teach a complex skill, use constructivism. Use something that has learners take their previous knowledge and build their new knowledge set and experience. If you want to teach something very intellectual, very knowledge-based, use cognitivism. Use something that helps them learn and retain information. If you need your learners to do something fast and repetitively and efficiently, then use something like behaviorism, which provides specific rewards as your learners perform the specific task. Now, there are a whole ton of learning theories and there's a whole lot of research and information in this subject. These are the main theories and these are the ones you could start using today. If this video was helpful, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I have a lot more content coming out on training, development, and improving learning. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.